Leave it to Bungie to fuck up a perfectly good video I made a few weeks ago. Oh man, just a few fucking weeks ago, I showed exactly how people will be able to use these powerful bounties in order to rank up for the next DLC, which is going to be Joker's Wild. Now, as I made the video and as I posted it, I found out that Bungie was going to be changing the way that powerful bounties work. So by the time I posted the video, it was already too late. I knew at some point Bungie was going to make the announcement that the powerful bounties that we were storing up now were not going to carry over to Joker's Wild. However, there is still a population of people who think this is a mistake for a number of reasons, myself included, because I am one of those who is hoarding those bounties. Now, most of the reasons are because Bungie's rationale for doing this is the exact opposite of what's going to happen when the content drops. They are absolutely fucking themselves over like a YouTube order with its favorite dildo. And here's the thing. There are 4 key pieces to cover as to why this is a mistake. The first one is they want to say that this is an even playing field that they're creating. The second reason are the bounties themselves. Third is the actual content that we receive, and the fourth is the competition that's coming from other games. Now, before I even get into all of those reasons, the first thing I want to do is dissect this statement that they made. This change is intended to prevent players from feeling the need to hoard bounties. Motherfucker, are you serious? You act like you're doing us a favor? Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Going all the way back to Destiny 1, players have always prepared for the next DLC drop. From collecting bounties, holding on to exotic engrams, storing Leviathan keys, we have always stored something. With the release of Black Armory, a good portion of people were far too underpowered just for the Volunder Forge in the very first week. So much so that the power levels needed to be dropped so that players can access it fairly. It's not that the Forge is difficult, it's that the one piece of new content was out of reach for people and they had to spend their time playing old content just to access the new content. Players who were prepared ahead of time, they got into the Forge without a power drop. Players who were prepared ahead of time got up to 650 within the first week. Matter of fact, they did in the first fucking day. Now, though there's no raid coming in Joker's Wild, the past 3 raids have been out of reach for a good portion of the community. I had always been a week or weekend number 1 raider, but since Spire of Stars, the power levels have been so far out of reach that it's just not enjoyable being 3 to 4 to 5 power levels under leveled going into a raid. Powerful bounties at least give people the chance to reach the appropriate power level. Stating that players are hoarding bounties or feel the need to, that's just disingenuous, because the reasons why players do it is due to the power level scaling that some of this content has issues with. Pretending players are hoarding bounties for shits and giggles isn't the main problem. It's a symptom of the issue, which is that you have power scaled content to be out of reach for people who don't have 10 to 15 hours a day to play. Not everybody's a professional couch potato. That being said, these are the 4 main problems that I listed at the beginning of the video. First one, evening the playing field. At the start of any DLC, basically it's a race to the power cap. Some players sprint, others like to treat it like a marathon. Some players want to run full speed, others want to jog into the finish line and take breaks in between. Reality is the playing field has never, ever been fair in Destiny. Like any loot shooter, Destiny rewards professional couch potatoes more than anyone. To a certain extent, that's fine. I don't have too much of a problem with that. A weekend warrior who plays maybe 10 hours a week isn't going to receive or even expect to receive the same rewards as someone who plays 10 hours a day. That's fine. Players know this is naturally going to happen. However, saving the powerful bounties closes the gap that already exists in the game. Sure, the pro screen lickers will be doing the same shit, but the players who got locked out of the Volunder Forge or the Scourge of the Past in week 1, they at least have a leg up this time to get to the next power level. I get that the removal of bounties is to prevent players from hitting the cap on day 1 immediately. I really do. However, there are some compromises to this a little bit later, but limiting the bounties aren't really hurting the people who are treating this as a full sprint. It doesn't hurt those who treat this as a marathon. It hurts those people who are somewhere in the middle of that group, who are getting locked out of content but still want to play everything in week number 1, even if they put in as many hours as their schedule permits. In theory, the game should be considered an even playing field right now. We have roughly 5 weeks of time before the next DLC, which could be the foundation for players to prep up. You do your spider bounty, you do all the raid challenges, the ascendant challenges. We have one more Iron Banner on the horizon. You have your weekly Gambit bounties, the rare Ada bounties are thrown in as well. Instead of restricting people, you should be promoting them to rank up because of reason number 4 that I'm going to be referring to later. Now, the second point of contention is the use of the actual bounties. With any of the powerful bounties in the pursuits, you can hold on to them if you wish. You don't have to complete them right away. If I complete a weekly Gambit bounty on Tuesday, and I'm only 610, I could cash that in at that point, and I'll get a reward that's roughly around 611 or so. But if I wait until Sunday, or even Monday, I do all my weekly milestones, I rank up, and then I cash out when I'm 625, all of a sudden, that powerful bounty rewards up. It scales up to the level that I am. So if I was 625 when I cashed in, all of a sudden now it's 626. However, I completed that bounty on Tuesday. Right now, players can already store a bounty and get a higher reward based on when they want to cash it in. We can strategically decide what is the best time to cash in a powerful bounty to get a high piece of gear. I can save that bounty to the following week if I wanted to. I can cash out when I feel I'm high enough light, or I want to hold off on completing Ikora's 20 bounty engram. Not only that, it's not even the bounties that can be withheld until completion. I can do all of Ikora's shit and cash in with her at the end of the week. I can do some of the exotic gun chases or some of the pursuits, and when I want to cash them in, I could do so at the higher light. Players have control when they want to cash in their bounties, when it suits them. Right now, the Silent Fang is not beneficial to a 650 player who already has Lord of Wolves and the Queensbreaker. The Shirochi Challenge is not beneficial to a 650 player who has every triumph in the game. By capping the bounties, you're once again restricting players to play the game how you want. This has been an argument from the community since day one, since Destiny 1. Players have not been satisfied with your boxed-in methods of how players access and play the game. Yes, we figure out glitches and loopholes and exploits, and all that shit deserves to be fixed. But whether we want to sprint or run a marathon to the finish line of the power levels, that should be in the player's control, not Bungie's. But again, there is a compromise to this at the end portion. Content. This is the third problem, and this is where you hit the wall with almost every single player. Black Armory had two pieces of new content. You have the Forge and you have the Raid. That's really it. I mean, we have the Exotic Quest and the Dawning Event, but those are pretty much one-time completion activities. In order to hit 650, players had to run all the same content that we had been running in Forsaken. Again! That means more Blind Wells, more Gambit, more Iron Banner, 3 fucking story missions, Nightfalls with the same goddamn modifiers, 5 Crucible games, Last Wish, Shattered Throne. You get the idea, right? We didn't get a new Strike. We didn't get new modifiers. We barely received a sandbox update, so the Crucible felt entirely the fucking same. Gambit wasn't touched. Competitive is still fucking cancer. And then you still have to farm the Tangled Shore for fucking ghost fragments, and that gets incredibly stale week after week. Yes, it's about to happen all over again. This time, there's no raid. And the main content is going to be some evolved Gambit activity. And apparently the Thorn is going to be coming back some point in Season 6. Gambit is already a polarizing game mode that people either love or hate. So this entire DLC is focused on a mode that some people like and other people don't. So those bounties that you're capping are basically the exact same content we have to run again. Sure, we can skip them. I can ignore the powerful ways of ranking up and take the slow approach to ranking up, run it as a marathon instead of a sprint. But at that point, why are you playing? You expect us to kill the Silent Fang again because there's nothing else to do. You expect us to run the Ascendant challenges again because, again, you can't even make new fucking milestones. For people that want to reach 700, the hamster wheel is going to be the exact fucking hamster wheel we've been on since September. And look, it's great that the Last Wish is moving forward and in power levels and scaling. People had that complaint with the Destiny 1 raids where they were getting left behind, where you couldn't bring back the Vault of Glass or Crota's End and shit like that. However, the counter argument to this is that you really have no option to leave it back at this point. At least in Destiny 1, with every expansion or the Taken Spring update, there was a new power level activity for players to enjoy, whether it was the Raid, Prison of Elders, you name it, you had some endgame activity. Black Armory has just 2 items. 2. But all the old stuff that we had in Forsaken and launch in September has to be run again. I mean, how many times do you think people want to run the goddamn Shirochi Challenge, man? If you actually had new content like strike scoring or the Daybreak strikes where you get your mayhem in PvE content, new guns or perks or armor sets for the spider bounties, have blind well completions that have a brand new armor set or a new pinnacle weapon, any other existing activity, anything, that will become appealing again. But without anything new, we're still in the same fucking hamster wheel. So my Gravemind Summoner bounty and my Do It Gambit bounty are essentially meaningless right now, but become slightly more powerful a month from now when I have to do the fucking things all over again. And that leads to my final point. Competition. It's no secret that EA and Anthem want to appeal to Destiny players. They've obviously had their demo, and a lot of people are making the comparisons between the two games. The Division is also going to take inspiration from Destiny, as both games are shared world loot shooters that want to take ideas from Destiny and add their own spin to their product. Competition can be a good thing, with all the studios pushing out new ideas that gamers will hopefully like. The problem is, this is a really crowded fucking market for 3 games to exist in. It's not even a month break between Anthem and the Division release alone. And both of those are sandwiched around the expected release date of Joker's Wild. Anthem is probably the most direct competition, with aliens and space magic and all that bullshit. And they released during a time when all the max level Destiny players have absolutely nothing to play for. However, if you told players that now is the time to ramp up for Joker's Wild, collect every bounty, collect raid keys, store those shits up, beat all the raid challenges, save your spider bounties, do your weekly gambit shits. If you encourage players to hold on to the bounties, you give people a reason to play Destiny 2 in February while Anthem is releasing instead. You're basically saying there's no reason to play or collect shit. So, we'll see you in Joker's Wild. Considering how light the Black Armory was on content, do you honestly think Joker's Wild is going to be able to compete with brand new games? Do you think Gambit, your most polarizing game mode outside of competitive, is going to stand up to shiny new products? I mean, you literally just ask players for feedback on Gambit, what they like and don't like, and think that is going to withstand the release of Anthem? Shit, man, take the opportunity now. Reel the players in. Promote the idea that playing weekly stuff to collect the bounties is actually going to benefit them in the future. Give people a reason to play Destiny while a competitor is launching their game. Make the choice between the two games being very difficult for them, because Anthem is naturally going to pull Destiny players away for a while. I might be one of them, because I'm going to try out the demo that comes out this Friday, but don't just let that shit happen. Fight for your players. Entice them with goodies and riches during the upcoming month. Then after Joker's Wild, you're going to have a second front coming with the Division. Now, I'm sure your logic is that the slower you allow people to rank up, the more time that they're going to play Destiny. If you allow us to hit the max level immediately after just 1 week, why are people going to bother coming back to the game? And look, that's a valid argument. I get it, because it's one you have to wrestle with as a studio against competition. However, the complex part of that answer is content. Point number 3 that I just made is that we're lacking something. We lacked content in Black Armory to keep players' attention. If you think running the Last Wish for the 60th time and the Ascendant Challenge for the 30th fucking week in a row is going to keep players from leaving Destiny temporarily, that's a grave miscalculation on your part, man. You have the ability to compete with Anthem. You have less of a chance against the Division because obviously it's going to release after your game, but again, compromises. There are things you can do with Joker's Wild and the bounties to split the difference with the community. So when you get to the compromises, here's what you can do. And look, this is a realistic approach. This is not some bullshit. This is not some shit that somebody would just randomly throw against the wall and hope it fucking worked. These are legit ideas. Aside from just reversing your decision on the bounties, which obviously you're not going to do, you can make 1 or 2 of these adjustments, or both. Option number 1, you only allow certain bounties to carry over as powerful bounties. You can change some of them to be earned immediately, while you can actually save some. Right now, a perfect example is Petra has her weekly story mission bounty, right? If you complete that, it automatically completes the bounty when you beat the mission. You get your rewards instantly as soon as you complete it. You can't save the bounty. You cash it out immediately because the game does it for you. Change some of those bounties to do exactly that, where it cashes you out immediately. My recommended ones would be any PvP related bounty, which includes Gambit and Iron Banner. The logic behind this is that PvE bounties never change. The Morgoth challenge is always the same. The Arcadian Cord is always the same. However, Gambit are unique bounties because you're competing against other players. Sometimes you'll win, sometimes you'll lose. Iron Banner is unique because, again, it's entirely PvP. The outcome of the games and the bounties will always be unique and will always be different. You'll gain a different percentage towards those completions compared to if you were just playing a PvE, which is you won or you lost. You advance some differently bounties again, you gain progress, and even then, I'm fine throwing in Ada's rare bounty into this category because some are PvP related. Cash out those PvP bounties immediately. However, you leave the Ascendant Challenge, Spider Bounties, and Raid Challenges to carry over. That way, people could save some bounties, but not every single one. Now, option number 2 is control the power levels. If you're so worried about people hitting max rank after such a short period of time, you can always cap the power levels per week. For example, after week 1, cap the power level at 670, so that no matter how far people get, nobody will progress past 670. Week number 2 is 680, then 690, 700. You get the idea, right? This is actually helpful in a couple ways, because by controlling the power caps, you can actually control the power-related activities in the future content. For example, the Volunderforge was out of reach for most people because the boss fight was 635. If you know people can only reach a certain number in week number 1, 670 is my example, then the max power level content of week 1 releases should be 670. In the future, when there's a raid, you can also control the population. If you cap things out at 670, then the raid could top out at 680 or 690 or so, or whatever mathematical solution you guys can come up with. Hoarding shit won't matter. Racers and marathon runners won't matter. If you put a cap on the limit as to what players can get to per week, not only are you preventing the racers from finishing ranking up immediately, but you also give those marathoners a goal to reach each week. Either one of these ideas or both these ideas is a decent compromise, because all 4 of the points that I just stated out before shows exactly why limiting these bounties is the wrong fucking idea. It doesn't logically make any sense as to why you would do something like this, knowing you have competition, knowing the content is stale and it's still the same shit, and the fact that we can already prep on other items. It is counterintuitive to how players approach Destiny. Whether or not Bungie actually listens to me, I highly doubt it, because they always have their head up their ass. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit, and I'll see you guys in the next video.